Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I know, good to see you too. I'm pretty happy to be here. We are going to have ourselves a fine and dandy show. We've got this thing all mapped out here. We're going to start with Anthony Russo from the Truth Will Set You Free podcast. Welcome back, Anthony Russo, because I like this part of the conversation because now the second assassination attempt of Trump has been it's been like 48 hours since this first happened. Now we actually have a little bit of information to fully understand what the heck's going on here. And, you know, I can't wait to see if this guy lives long enough to testify and start talking about what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's a weird place to be in when I think you and I even talked about it after the first assassination attempt, when we talked about the fact that Iran wanted to do some, probably assassinate Donald Trump. And the one big mistake was the fact that Crook's kid somehow didn't get it done. And now he's going to be so protected. There's no way anything like this could happen. Meanwhile, some guy is sitting in bushes for 12 hours staking out someplace. And it's looser than it was even before. It's mind-boggling. So, I mean, we're going to find some stuff out potentially, but then you've got this guy that, I mean, here's the thing. If he doesn't make it to actually be able to speak, and I don't know if he will speak because he is an absolute seeming lunatic, or what some people would say, potentially MK Ultra, if you believe in that stuff, if he actually gets Clintoned before the situation, I think people are going to have even more eyebrows raised. So I don't think they can take him out.
Right now, conspiracy theories are on the table. I don't see how this guy's working alone in the fact that there had to be at least some sort of inside info, depending on how much of a last-minute decision this golf game was. Because if he just decided like within an hour or so to play, that means someone in Donald Trump's close personal orbit was getting the word out. But that doesn't make sense, because how is he there 12 hours in advance? So, you know, that's another variable I'm still trying to juggle. Do you have a better understanding of that, Anthony?
Not at all. Now, this guy, could there have been multiple places he could be that day? Could this have been like a multiple people like this potential assassin that are in different places that he could have gone? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. What really doesn't make any sense is that this lunatic somehow made contact with anybody else to actually have that this is an opportunity or a possibility. Like, this is one of the things that he could be doing on this day of the week. He might go golfing. I don't know. None of it makes sense. We still don't. The fact that, and I wish that Trump would have had this conversation more during the debate, talking more about the fact that, hey, why are we looking at my assassination attempt when I took a bullet for democracy? Why isn't he asking about the fact that the FBI and all of these people have colluded to allow this body to be cremated without further investigation, without any real research, and we've pretty much forgotten about it the same way we did about the Vegas shooting that killed 50-plus people several years ago. All of a sudden it was shuffled underneath the rug. I think that's questionable. And now you've got a clear leak in information, which with what could be the Secret Service, I don't know, somebody like you said, in the inner circle, and there's truly nobody answering these questions. You know, you've got some Republican lawmakers like Josh Hawley hammering down on trying to figure out what the heck happened. But are we even a place that's going to get answers? They know the media is going to carry the water for the cover up. If you're not watching Fox News right now, you have barely any idea that there might have been some kind of potential assassination attempt. So it's getting done what they want to get done, which is make it nothing until potentially somebody is actually able to get them.
Well, I look forward to having some of these little pieces of information that we're still waiting on. This is going to be huge, Anthony. Tell me about the podcast. How's it going?
So fun night tonight. Tonight is episode number 200. It's not going to be as much of a hard-hitting show as usual, but we're going to have a bunch of old guests on the show tonight, 6 o'clock Central Time, on all the social media networks, Truth Will Set You Free, Facebook, X, all the different things. So tonight should be a lot of fun. We're just going to say hello to people, see where they stand, what they're thinking about the election coming up. We've got potentially like 15 people stopping by to say hello.
All right. All the things on the Truth Will Set You Free podcast. Thank you very much, Anthony Russo.
Take it easy.
All right. So check that out wherever you're already listening to podcasts. All right. We got a treat coming up for you. And I mean that tongue in cheek. We have Kamala Harris, who is speaking live, answering questions. Looks like it's unscripted. Looks like there's no teleprompter. Don't worry. She's in a very safe context. She's at the National Association of Black Journalists. Now, Donald Trump was at the National Association of Black Journalists back on August 1st. When we come back, I'm going to let you hear some of what Kamala Harris is doing live right now. And depending on how this turns out, because I just previewed it a little bit right before the show started, we'll compare that to how Donald Trump's visit to the National Association of Black Journalists went. Won't that be a fun exercise? If you got any comments, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227, especially if you've got new info or theories about Donald Trump's second assassination attempt. We'll still be fielding those until we get all the answers. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If you want to jump in on the conversation, the phone number is 800-288-9227. I'm still taking your theories on what really happened just 2 days ago in the second assassination attempt of Trump. Some of these details aren't quite adding up. Was it a last-minute decision by Trump? How last-minute was it? Does that lend credence to the idea that there's a mole in his inner circle that's tipping off people on the outside on how to best execute him? Then on top of that, you look up on the screen and, oh my goodness, Kamala Harris. She's actually taking questions from people. Who is this? What's the setting? Oh, she's at the National Association of Black Journalists. Well, at least she's out there taking some kind of questions somehow, speaking off a teleprompter with unprepared remarks. Let's see how it goes. But if you want to jump in, 800-288-9227. Now, we were monitoring this right before the show started and then on the break. And we saw the next question was about, racial strife or whatever. And we're like, whatever this answer is, that's the one we're going to play. So here it is.
I want to switch gears to racial justice, Madam Vice President. Last month, you eulogized Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
Yeah.
Jackson Lee's signature bill, one of a few, was H.R. 40, which would create a commission to study the history of U.S. slavery and study the issue of reparations. She introduced H.R. 40 every session of Congress, taking up the mantle from Congressman John Conyers. This is a bill that you have co-sponsored as a U.S. Senator. Yet, this has, despite the fact that this has been, similar commissions have been created on the state level and on the local level, is yet to pass in Congress, let alone come out of committee. Congresswoman Jackson Lee, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, and other advocates have called for President Biden to take executive action to create this commission. Would you, as president, take executive action to create this commission, or do you believe that it should happen in Congress?
Well, first of all, as you mentioned, Sheila Jackson Lee, she's an extraordinary leader who we just recently lost, and she was a friend and a real champion for so many issues. So I feel compelled to say that about her. On the issue of what we need to do going forward, look, first of all, we just need to speak truth about history in spite of the fact that some people would try and erase history.
Do you need to make the commission?
And try and teach our children otherwise.
Do you need to make the commission?
We need to speak truth about the generational impact of our history in terms of the generational impact of slavery, the generational impact of redlining, of Jim Crow law. I could go on and on and on.
We know. What about the commission?
These are facts.
Okay, the commission?
That have had impact.
What about the commission?
And we need to speak truth about it. And we need to speak truth about it in a way that is about deriving solutions. And frankly, I think that we, and part of that is studying it to figure out exactly what we need to do. But
so yes,
part of what we can do right now is, for example, what I'm talking about in terms of building an opportunity economy.
That doesn't mean anything. What about the commission?
Addressing explicitly the obstacles that historically and currently exist and dealing with them. Student loan debt, medical debt, bias in home appraisals.
What about commissions?
What we need to do in terms of dealing with an issue that I have championed for years.
What about commissions?
Black maternal mortality.
No, the commission.
Which is the fact that black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die in connection with childbirth than other women.
I mean, that's terrible, but what about the commission?
We know that the reasons for that include disparities that pre-exist her pregnancy including disparities that exist in the system during her pregnancy. So all of those things must be addressed.
But do you have a position on whether that should happen, this commission should happen through executive order or via Congress?
I think Congress ultimately will have the ability to do this work.
So she's not going to answer that. He let her just ramble on about nothing for a long time there. What happened when Trump was, I misspoke earlier. I played the audio on the August 1st show. He was actually at the National Association of Black Journalists on July 31st of this year. See if he was treated any different.
You giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you,
what's that attitude?
Why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner.
Right?
First question. You don't even say hello.
So you'll notice a difference there, an obvious difference. When Kamala Harris started, do we have the beginning of her little situation there? Because I don't think she got a listing of grievances. Actually, we did listen to the beginning of that, and it didn't start off with about 18 criticisms in a row, and then the question of basically, how can you expect black people to listen to it? Oh, do you have it? Yeah, they just jumped into the question. There was no listing of grievances for Kamala Harris, but did you the attitude? Like, listen to the way she was even just talking to Trump. So yeah, there was a tweet by Mark Cuban last week about how the mainstream media is always covering for Trump. Sure they are. Sure, yeah, they're not biased. They're not biased to the left at all, are they? 800-288-9227. Steve in Weatherford, you're on WBAP. What do you think, sir?
Hey, sir, I hope everybody realizes that Mr. Trump has literally hundreds of billions of dollars on his head for someone to take him out. And let me explain what that means.
Wait, Trump? You're saying Trump does?
Yes.
Okay.
And here's why that phenomenon exists. If Kamala goes to presidency, how many hundreds of billions will continue to flow to Ukraine versus if Trump becomes president?
Right, and that's the worst thing that could happen for the defense contractors and the military-industrial complex is if there's a ceasefire within the first year.
And it would be horrible for Ukraine as well. The second thing is China would end up with Taiwan. The third thing is no severe sanctions against Iran. Kamala would let Iran continue doing what it's currently doing. And then the fourth thing is the Obama and Clinton and deep state people would never see the investigations into their dirty laundry or give the deep state agencies a deep haircut and clean them all up. So there's literally hundreds of billions of dollars at jeopardy for lots of big players if Trump gets in office versus against Iran. Kamala would let Iran continue.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of us agree with that. You know, that's yeah. I hear you, Steve. Your phone's just kind of breaking up a little bit, but I think we all get that, and that's a perverse incentive that has infected both sides of the aisle. There are the establishment types in both major parties that love forever wars. I mean, that's what the neocons are. Conservatives traditionally throughout American history have been the more anti-war party. And so that's why they had to come up with the term neocon when you had both of the Bushes decide that we're going to start wars. Well, a Republican had never started a war in American history. They've ended a few wars, but they had never started a war. That was a new thing. But yeah, there's always going to be that incentive. That's something that George Orwell talked about in 1984. That's something Eisenhower talked about in his farewell address. That's something that the founding fathers talked about in the Federalist Papers, where they were debating having a standing army at all just in order to avoid something like this. 800-288-9227 if you want to jump in on the conversation. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, I'm going to talk to Stephen Moore from the Heritage Foundation. He's Trump's old economic advisor. And we're going to talk about how the economy could be fixed. That's next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Still, the most common way you can get a hold of me, or that people do get a hold of me, is sending me a Facebook message. If you send it to either the WBAP Facebook page or my show page, I can read both of those. Don't worry about it. I feel like I need to remind you more often about my email, james@wbap.com. I think it's easy to remember. I think you're an email at some point in your day anyway, and it's easy to just slide open another email. But also, whenever I say that, I get a flurry of emails, and if I go a long time without saying it, they sort of dwindle away. So however you want to get your message to me, I'm the guy who reads them. It's not like Garrett reads them and filters them all and hands me the ones he thinks are important. It's just another way you can reach out. Now, if you have the time, if it's convenient, and you want to jump in on the conversation through the phone, 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. One of the things that we're watching in the wake of this second assassination attempt on Donald Trump is the media going to change? Are they going to self-censor? Are they going to show, I would like to see contrition. I would like to see some apologies. But I'm not getting my hopes up too much. Morning Joe is not going to apologize. Rachel Maddow is not going to apologize. Joy Reid would rather slide down a razor blade banister than apologize. The View's not going to apologize. But is anybody? Like Jake Tapper might apologize. Bill Maher might. I mean, he's gone pretty hard on Trump too. But don't get your hopes up. Here's what we do. We wait to see what they're going to say in the days after that, and have they changed? Well, here's an example. Hillary Clinton. She was on Rachel Maddow last night, MSNBC, a couple million people watching. Has she backed off this idea that Trump is Hitler and Trump is a threat to democracy and Trump is so dangerous that he has to be taken out? Let's see.
I don't understand why it's so difficult for the press to have a consistent narrative about how dangerous Trump is. The late, great journalist Harry Evans, one time said that, journalists should, really try to achieve objectivity. And by that, he said, they should cover the object. Well, the object in this case is Donald Trump. His demagoguery, his danger to our country and the world, and stick with it.
Dude, keep calling him a danger to the whole world. Just keep doing it. See how many times you can do it until he gets shot. Is that the plan? Is that what you're doing? Even after 2 attempts, you're not going to tap the brakes on he's dangerous to the whole world talk? See, that's dangerous. You're the dangerous one. If the bullets are flying at you, you're not the dangerous one. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. So Hillary, instead of urging calm, maybe we should all turn it down a little bit. Turn it down from 11 to about an 8 or maybe a 7 or so. She's sticking with the idea that not only is outrage okay, we probably need to be more outraged. We need to encourage outrage.
Americans need to understand that they have to take Trump both seriously and literally. He has said what he wants to do. He and his allies with Project 2025, his desire to be a dictator, at least on day one, all of that is in the public record. And I believe that more Americans have to be, willing to endure what frankly is discomforting and to some extent kind of painful, to take him at his word and to be outraged by what he represents.
That is the exact opposite of what she needs to be doing right now. That is the exact opposite of what's good for this country. That is the exact opposite of bringing us together. That is polarizing. That is very divisive. And she didn't stop. And it's not that it was brought up to her and she said Trump's dangerous and she moved on. Here's another question and answer like 2 minutes later where she's sticking with the idea Trump's dangerous.
Can't go back and give this very dangerous man another chance to do harm to our country and the world.
There it is. Harm to the country and the world. He's a dangerous man doing harm to the country and the world. No wonder this guy's getting shot at by crazy people. They think he's a harm to the entire world. And so if words are violence, if words are harm, then we need to stop it. We need to prosecute propaganda. Really? So
just as Mueller indicted a lot of Russians who were engaged in direct election interference and boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence.
Criminally charging people for what she labels propaganda, which would probably be this show, it should be illegal. It would make me a criminal. No, but you need to be scared of Trump. The lady is saying she's going to crack down on free speech and put people in jail for political speech that she disagrees with. But look out for Trump. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Your call's next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Now, I'm not fussing you. This isn't your dad waving his finger at you. But we should look back at ourselves after the July 13th shooting and say, we did something wrong because this happened again. And I know that we're not all like collectively responsible for the actions of some random dude who flew in from Hawaii to try and take a shot at Trump. But the rhetoric that I was just playing in the last segment that's continuing, we should have said something. We should have been a little more forceful on pushing back against that rhetoric after the first shooting. When I played you, I just thought about that when I was playing you the audio from Donald Trump at the National Association of Black Journalists on July 31st. Look, that's just 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks after he got shot. And not only were they, they don't have to be like slobberingly deferential, but they don't have to come out and give a list of grievances and paint him like the second coming of Hitler before they get to their first question. And they're still not learning their lesson after the second shooting. I don't know what we do. 800-288-9227. Let's ask Kevin in Fort Worth. Hey, Kevin, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Hey, I think it's just crazy. The real threat to America and the world is the Democrats. Going way back to this hate stuff, Kathy Griffin hanging that bloodied head, a severed head of Donald Trump way back when. It just continues on and on and on. They are the threat, and then they're allowing Iran to build nukes and all this other stuff. Nah, they're the ones that are a threat to the world and in America for sure.
Well, the double standards are the stark reminder of how hypocritical this idea is. I remember I made montages of the media freaking out like, this is scary, when Trump shared an animated GIF of someone in a CNN head getting body slammed, like someone put the CNN logo over someone's face in a WWE clip, and they got body slammed. And so like an anchor was like saying, this is scary, this is like a direct threat, and this has to stop. And meanwhile, Hillary Clinton's like, this is a dangerous man. They're going to kill us all. They're going to bring chaos to the entire world. And okay, the double standard makes you know they're lying. They have to be lying.
Exactly. And then Kamala and the Bidens, all of them, the Democrats in general, encouraging all the terrorism in Minneapolis. It wasn't just a riot; it was terrorism. Burning down buildings and ruining people's businesses and lives and killing people is not a riot. It's terrorists.
Well, yeah, if you're doing it for a political cause. The people that get really upset, like in Canada, like I think Vancouver Canucks lost in the finals, so a bunch of people went out and flipped over some cars and set some things on fire. That's not terrorism. But when you're doing violence or intimidation to further a political cause, literally the definition of terrorism. You're right. Summer of Love, all those George Floyd protests, the protests that were outside the DNC, it's all terrorism.
Absolutely. And so they are the threat to America and the world, not us. Not the Republicans.
Right, and then that's why it says in the Constitution, thank you very much for your call, Kevin in Fort Worth, that you have the right to peaceably assemble, peaceably protest. The second you start destroying property or hurting people, then it turns into terrorism. Evan in Dallas, you're next up on WBAP. What do you think, Evan?
Yeah. I had just a couple of questions to pose for think around. One, Trump was apparently prosecuted for inciting riots on January the 6th. Is there a penalty, or should there be a penalty for inciting assassinations or rhetoric and public incitement of that? And the next thing, should we push a bill forward for equal protection for both candidates? Because Obama and Hillary and everybody are flying around with the Secret Service protecting them, aren't they? And they're not sitting presidents. So those are two of the things that I kind of want to beat around the bush.
No, those are cool questions to talk about. I'm not real sure in my answers, but I'll tell you what I think, because this is all still kind of processing in my head. For the first part of that, no, we can't sue Jake Tapper or put handcuffs on him for inciting people to be violent against Donald Trump. There's not going to be a legislative fix for that. The societal illusion that we've been making on the James Show the last couple of days is how we treat like the N-word, or how we treat hateful speech toward females, like with the Don Imus situation comes to bear. Like, he lost his job. Anyone goes out and says the N-word will lose their job in broadcasting, but it doesn't have to be a law. It just has to be something all of society agrees to. We're not going to tolerate this anymore. The problem is half of society is okay with the hyperbole of calling people like you and me, Evan, Hitler, calling us Nazis, calling us racist. I mean, these are terrible, terrible things to call people, because that's a terrible thing to be. Being racist is awful. The history of racists, even in America, is pretty ugly, pretty filled with violence and nasty things like lynching and oppression and confiscating guns. And, there's all kinds of ugly things. We shouldn't tolerate that anymore.
Well, I guess I got a question. That is inciting a riot. Could some of that be considered free speech? And where does the line stop and start? And couldn't you do the same thing for that about an assassination? Or because I believe that there are laws that are close to that on the books now. But I mean, if you're doing that in a political atmosphere, I don't see how that is impossible to term around.
And listen, on your other question, should we pass a bill that says both candidates equal protection? I'd say that's a horrible idea. Right now, Donald Trump needs a ton of protection, and Joe Biden doesn't need any. Nobody's shooting at him. Nobody's trying to kill him. Nobody cares. He's sitting on a beach and wide open, and wherever he's at, Delaware one day or Los Angeles the next day, no one's trying to kill him. He doesn't need any protection. So if you were going to do that, you would just be shortchanging Trump.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of agree with you there, but he's not really getting protection now, because I mean,
right.
He could have driven around the perimeter in 2 vans of that and cost less money than what they're paying those guys now, and spotted that guy.
No, you're absolutely right. I just got to scoot. Thank you for calling, Evan.
Okay.
Appreciate it. That's Evan in Dallas. If you want to be next, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Hey, we could all be private security sleuths or public security sleuths. Coming up next, we're going to talk to a protection and counterintelligence expert and run through him what almost happened on Sunday. Could it happen again? This is The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. We've had my next guest on before. His name's Frank Robertson. He's with the Black Rhino Group, but we've been talking about personal protection details, after the second attempt on Trump's life this weekend. We're kind of seeing what are the solutions. If the Secret Service doesn't want to take care of them, doesn't your company do that, Frank? I mean, welcome to the show, but is that something Black Rhino could do?
Hey, thanks for having me back. I appreciate you guys. Yeah, we take care of high net worth individuals that have direct threats against them, and I can tell you there's some things that the Secret Service could do easily to have prevented what just happened Sunday. And of course, we already talked about Butler, the issues there, but. Yeah, we do that. It's
So why hasn't you think Trump's going to do that? Do you think he's going to get some private detail to beef up his Secret Service?
Honestly, I don't think they're going to let him while he's president, and since he has Secret Service, because Secret Service isn't going to let the private security anywhere near their operation. The solution to this is simple. If I have, and I've worked for guys that have had direct threats against them, if I'm going to take that person to go play that golf course, and I know that there's a direct threat, I'm reaching out, and at our expense, I'm hiring an off-duty or a handful of off-duty officers to sit along the roadside after it's been swept until the former president is done or my client is done playing golf on that side of the golf course. The sheriff at the press conference yesterday said that the Secret Service told him that they needed more assets. They were there for him. All they had to do is pick up the phone and say, hey, you got 4 or 5 guys. We need to have a dog team walk the fence line and 4 cars, 2 on each side of those streets, to watch the fence line while the president's playing golf. That's a simple solution.
Yeah, a lot of us could have thought of that have no security experience. Why do you think the Secret Service didn't take them up on that offer?
Honestly, I don't understand why that didn't happen, and I don't understand most of the stuff we talked about at Butler either. But I think it starts with the leadership, because the folks on the ground, luckily the Secret Service agent that was advancing the 6th hole, or Trump was playing the 5th hole, that's why he was 300 to 500 yards away. If that guy hadn't seen that rifle, we're talking about the former president being on the same hole with the guy 50 to 100 yards away from him. So we're lucky that in that area, but I don't know why they're not doing it. They admitted in the press conference yesterday that the fence line was not swept before the president got there. It wasn't on any calendar that he had. The Secret Service is given notice before he goes there, and it's not like you or I going to, driving around and go, hey, I'm going to go hit some balls. It's not. Right. That's not how the decisions are made. Someone knew about an hour ahead of time, at least, that he was going to go over there. So I don't know how he figured out he was going to that golf course that day, but sitting there for 12 hours tells me he possibly had some information ahead of time.
Yeah, and that's what we're all speculating on, because if he does have information ahead of time, who did he get it from? Wouldn't it have to be someone in Trump's close orbit? Or yeah, so do you have any guesses on that? Well, it could be as innocent as someone that was playing golf at the golf course and told they need to clear out because the president's coming over there, and then they go down the street to a restaurant and he's standing in line over here. Well, we got kicked out of the golf course because Trump's going to go play. I mean, it could be as innocuous as that. The sinister side of it is that he's been there for a while, which we don't know yet, and he's made friends with somebody at the golf course that gives him the heads up and maybe tells him he's paparazzi, because the area he was in is known for paparazzi over the years, taking pictures of Trump before he was president. It's a well-known spot for photographers. So we don't know the whole story, how he got that information, but there's several different scenarios that I can think of that he could have gotten that information. Frank Roberson, what would you do different if the Secret Service called you and they're like, listen, you got Black Rhino Group, you guys have a pretty good track record, what do we need to change? What would you tell them? Well, first off, if they did, we would operate outside the perimeter. So we actually could have been called in, and I could have had 4 of our counter surveillance guys sitting on those streets. I could have had a dog team come in and walk the outside of the golf course in the bushes, and we could have secured it without interrupting any of their Secret Service protocols or their coverage of the former president. And they could have made a phone call to the sheriff. Well, I'm not saying we're going to do this, just spitballing the idea. What if we had like some fundraisers or put up a GoFundMe account and we got Black Rhino to do some of that work? That would be fun, but I think the Secret Service would ever allow that, because that has to be signed off on, and you know how they are. They're called the Secret Service for a reason. They don't want even law enforcement anywhere near. Our guys wouldn't be allowed to have firearms anywhere near there. So it's a much better solution if they just picked up the phone, Sheriff's Department, hey, I need a K-9 unit and four cars. I mean, that's as simple as it is. Right. All right, Frank Robertson. I'd love to do it, but I just know it wouldn't happen. We got about 30 seconds left. Tell them about Black Rhino Group and what you do over there. Well, we do protective services, protective intelligence, counter surveillance, that type of thing for people who have threats, whether it's a family, a CEO, or just someone that needs us in the office for a little while. Maybe a cat in Springfield. Anyway, thank you very much. Yeah.
Protecting cats and dogs, yes.
Frank Robertson, thanks for being on the James Show again. I appreciate your expertise, sir.
Appreciate you guys having me back. Thank you.
He makes it sound so easy, and I think it's because it is. And look, you doubt yourself, I doubt myself. I've never done a security detail, but wouldn't you do a lap around the golf course real quick to make sure there's no one poking any guns through the fence? I scratch my head sometimes thinking, can it be that easy? And sometimes when you talk to the experts, they just confirmed, yeah, that's pretty easy. All right, coming up next, some more audio from the campaign trail and your thoughts on what you just heard from a guy who protects high-value targets for a living. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Some calls next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I've really been enjoying your input here, because you're making more sense than the excuses that we're hearing on TV. Oh, well, we were going to secure the area, but, there's bushes there, and you know how we can't handle bushes with our $11 trillion defense budget, Just like after the one on July 13th, they're like, well, that was a slanted roof, that's really dangerous to sit on a slanted roof like that. Well, I'm not buying it. You're not buying it, and we shouldn't buy it. So all theories are welcome as long as you have some evidence or at least a storyline or a hunch to back it up. I want to hear it. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Tim in South Carolina? You're on WBAP. Yes. How are you listening in South Carolina? I mean, I'm glad you are, but
I'm doing it through iHeart, and I love your show. But the thing about this moment in time, borrowing one of Kamala's lines, is that this is serious. They're not going to quit until they take Mr. Trump out, President Trump out, and he's the greatest guy that we've ever had for president in my mind. So they're going to pull out all their greatest tactics. And my theory is that it wasn't just one location. Everybody knows Trump's going to play golf on a beautiful day. That's what he does. But listen, there could have been people in several locations at these golf courses just waiting to get lucky. This guy was a lunatic laying in the bushes. There's plenty more lunatics out there that were probably laying at several other of his golf courses. So I think we need to look at some surveillance at some of these other locations or courses that Trump loves. Which I get it. There's tons of them, but this isn't a one-off. This is they're trying to kill this man.
Well, no, you're bringing up a good point, because there's so much in common with this guy that did it this weekend and the fella on July 13th that tried it in Butler, Pennsylvania. One of the main differences, though, is that Butler was the hometown of the Crooks guy. This dude he's originally from North Carolina, but he lives in Hawaii now. So he transported his butt there just for this specific purpose. It's a lot less conspiratorial, the Butler situation, because Trump happened to go straight to where that guy is. It's not like he was planning on it or there was some logistics or he had to do any planning. That one's like he's just a crazy person and Trump fell on his lap. This guy was seeking this out. And this guy has a little more question mark above him than the guy 2 months ago. And for that point, Tim.
Yeah, that's definitely. I got to agree with that. But also, you got to look at how crazy this guy is. He was in Ukraine. Somebody spotted him. Somebody knows him. And he's not just a one-off. There are hundreds of people out there like him. And all the propaganda they're listening to, they're mad as fire already. They would practically do it for nothing if giving the resources that they need as far as locations, ammunition, weapons, scopes, like the scope on his gun. So this guy had resources that nobody's proven yet. And it's going to come out, but I guarantee you they're not going to quit, and this is just the beginning.
Did this guy have a rangefinder too? Do we know?
We don't know, but why would he need to? I mean, he's got at the range he was at, and the weapon that he was using, and the scope that he had. It didn't matter where Trump was. Trump's a great golfer. He's going to be in the fairway every time.
He could get away with not having a rangefinder, but if he did have a rangefinder and it was the same type, that would be indicative of someone's handing out equipment to both of these dudes. That would increase the conspiracy odds, is what I was getting at there, though, Tim. Thank you very much for your call and listening in South Carolina. That's far. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Let's go to Kevin in Dallas. You're next up on WBAP. Your thoughts on the Trump shooting?
Yes, sir. So all the way back to the trial, their plan was to have him in jail so he couldn't get out and make his appearances, debate, any of that stuff. So once they realized, hey, if they shut him down, that's not going to be good. America's not going to like this, right? So then they started real heavy with the, just the hate speech, really. So that makes you think it's driven by them, has to be driven by them. And another issue, so you can't find the drone footage of the shooter on the first shooter, the first incident. Okay, so I that day took a picture from my TV of this drone footage of the guy laying there, the shooter laying there on this roof. Well, supposedly he cracked off, 7 shots. They shot once and killed him. If you look at the picture, the gun is actually probably 7 feet away from him. So how does this add up?
Oh, I'll have to go back and look at that. I don't have a good answer for you because I'm not seeing that picture in my head. But if you have any tips, or because if that's something I haven't seen and I want to see it, can you email that to me, james@wbap.com, and I'll check it out?
Yes, sir. I've actually got 2 pictures. I will send you.
That's fantastic, Kevin. I appreciate your help. See, I've got little junior sleuths helping me out. I can't do it all myself. 800-288-9227. See, we're a good team, you and me. Jay in Pottsboro, you're next up on the James Show on WBAP. What do you think?
What's the connection or the chances of a connection of both of these would-be assassins working and doing commercials for this company BlackRock? And what is this company BlackRock? They're both seen doing commercials. What's the tie here? They seem to both produce assassins.
Yeah, well, I think the same ad has both shooters in it, which would be even weirder. However, I think that the idea that this second guy has been in a BlackRock video has been debunked. I think. So I've seen both. I've seen the fact that, because I saw a screenshot, hey, here's that creepy guy, and then later here's Crooks. They're both in there. And then if you go Google it, you'll see that the second would-be Trump assassin did not appear in a BlackRock commercial. So I think this one is still up in the air. Because I would say, hey, some fact checkers have said it's wrong, so I'm gonna lean against it. But fact checkers have shown us to be amazingly unreliable when it comes to anything political.
Well, the fact checkers are in Florida, and they're funded by the government, so I wouldn't believe anything they said.
Well, one of the fact checkers is funded by the Tampa Times or whatever that is, St. Petersburg, whatever the heck it is. But yeah, I'll check in on that too. All rumors are welcome until proven otherwise. So if you have anything else to throw at me, like Jay in Pottsboro or the other guy in Dallas, I'm open to all this. Until they give us the real answers, this all sounds legit. I'll entertain anything. I'm not going to make fun of you. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. You can also leave me a message on the Facebook feed for WBAP, the little video that's trailing under it, or send me an email, james@wbap.com. Coming up next, we're going to talk to an oil and gas expert about what's going on with the price of gas, and is it going to stay low, or should you expect it to go up soon? It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.